Paul again. Once again, another episode of Design to Heal. And what I want to talk about today is something that I come across so often. And it is a bit of a taboo topic, unfortunately. And I think we say that these things are taboo because we're not supposed to do them. They are an absolute worst of behavior of the way that humans interact in society. We had our first example of this 3,000 years ago with Oedipus Rex. And Oedipus Rex is, everybody learns it in high school. Oedipus Rex is poor Oedipus who ends up um, inadvertently, we don't always, it's not exactly sure about that one, sleeping with his mother and murdering his father. And so we end up with the two of the ultimate taboos, which is basically incest, and I think also one of the great taboos of society, same-sex, familial behavior and murder, right? And so a murder, that's everybody knows about that one. I mean, it's the foundational practice of police forces to absolutely catch the murderer in order to make sure that humans over and over and over again remember, don't do this or you're going to spend the rest of your life behind bars, of course. I like to say that EMDR takes the boo out of taboo. That is my little haha joke because I think that what I've encountered in 21 years of working with drug and alcohol addiction treatment is unfortunately that this same-sex attraction and sexual experimentation, whatever at 13, 14, 15 is all too common. It's all too common. And this can be with your best friend, it can be with a neighbor, it can be with a relative, and that is just all too common. And before EMDR, I've come to understand and practice it, and I wrote a book about it, and I have seen astounding results with it. Before that, I would always say to myself after working with somebody and helping them get cleaned up and helping them to confront their demons, to look at their ghosts, right, and to exorcise, right, we exorcise these demons and these ghosts, and we say be gone, and we try to find a sense of peace of mind, and we stop fighting, and we stop trying to change the past. That's so important. Past is dead, right? And I would always say to myself, gosh, what next? That happened to me. I had sexual abuse when I was an adolescent, unwanted from a relative. And I myself would say, well, now what do I do with this information? What do I do with this? And I never had an answer for like, 15 years. I just didn't know what the answer was. I think the answer was whatever, acceptance, accepting the past as past, trying to find some reconciliation with the perpetrator. I have to say, in 90% of cases, I just never got anywhere with that with anybody. And the question of police action within the family unit, I came across that once or twice. I would just leave that to the individual and a lawyer and the police. That's not really my business, And so I just would always wonder what next. And when I came across EMDR, that was where the light bulb went on for me, because what we do with EMDR in these kinds of circumstances is to say, aha, what happened during that time, in all kinds of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not common to really question the beliefs and insist on agency of the individual and insist on mental and intellectual boundaries for the individual that this happened to. Oftentimes it's confronting the abuser. It is trying to find some sort of detachment or distance from the abuser. It is potentially cutting off the family and or taking police action, getting compensation, right? Yes, fine. That's all important. But it leaves the individual unable in many cases because of the traumatic nature of the encounters, right? It's taboo, right? Of course it's taboo. I can't talk about this. I can't share it. If I do, I'm going to be seen uh, as bad or evil or a freak or this has never happened to anybody else but me or I don't want to destroy the family unit if I make this public. I don't want to put a relative in prison. These are the very very hard choices. If people and also am I going to be believed? So many people tell their parents something happened with another family member and they're not believed. Because why? Because mothers are designed with a maternal instinct in mind. And the very act of a sexual behavior between two siblings, something that goes against the very nature of the maternal instinct, that I should have prevented this, I should have known this, how come I didn't stop it? And mothers oftentimes just simply can't go there because their sense of their instinct as a mother figure would be destroyed. And unfortunately, there's so many scientific peer-reviewed journals that will say that the wife will very often side with a husband over a child. And this is something where it's one of the mysteries of human life that one of the main reasons for boys and girls, but certainly girls, when they approach their mother, that something happened. The mother simply refuses to act or to believe it. But we need to focus on what happened to the individual at that time. What were they seeing? What were they noticing? What was happening? And what were the emotions that were attached? What was the emotions that were attached? And we can find and nail down the emotions in a peaceful, in a completely controlled environment where they are completely under control, where they have complete agency. All the words belong to them. The words they choose, the beliefs they choose, the emotions they choose are strictly up to this person, this individual. And so when we do that, we can get a very good sense of, of just what happened, right? And most important, what were the beliefs what were the beliefs that were coming up about myself that at the time I carried into adulthood. These are very deep-seated beliefs. These are traumatic episodes, and with whether it's first cousin or sibling or boy or girl, there are going to be differences, of course. With a stranger, if it's coercive, if it's, I don't know what the word is, if it's, do we dare say consensual? It's just one of those hard questions that society has got to start asking. This Menendez brother Netflix with Cooper Koch as the younger Menendez brother allowed a lot of that discussion to occur in a very public way. Because there's allegations of that between the two brothers in this miniseries, and that was the #1 ranked show on Netflix, and it causes us to have to question what is forced, what is coerced, what is consensual, how common is all of this. I would just say that, and I tell people, guys, all the time when I'm working with them in drug and alcohol addiction treatment, and certainly also in EMDR, that there's lots of studies out there. There's a very famous study from USC, school, I believe it's either the School of Public Health or the School of Medicine, and they made the claim that in interviewing thousands of men, that something like 40% of these men, 40% of them had as their first encounter an encounter with another boy. usually between the ages of like whatever, 12 and 14, something like that. And that's just, that a lot of that is natural curiosity. And sometimes it carries on and sometimes it stops. But the thing that I want to do with somebody who's had this experience is to figure out, what are the beliefs that were occurring at the time? Were those beliefs really ever true? And if they seem true, which is fair, um, what role do they have with us as adults, right? As adults, we have a different understanding of sexuality. We can create our own boundaries. We can create our sense of agency. We can create our sense of self-trust. We can create a sense of trusting our intuition. We can create a sense that, in 9 out of 10 men, maybe 8 out of 10 men, I'm straight, right? I don't need to worry that I'm gay because I had a encounter with another boy when I was 14. That doesn't need to stay with people, because so many men carry those ghosts around and have question marks about their sexuality. They don't need to do that. But those beliefs were formed not as adults. Those beliefs were formed at the time of the interaction. And these are beliefs experimenting, young boys who don't have really don't have much of a clue about anything about sexuality, or about intimacy, or dating, or all the things that happen in later in high school or university. And so there's also the question of the added element of taboo on top of the shame, or what have you. Um, and we are being visited by a helicopter. Um, so I apologize here. And so the Barcelona police. And so what happens in these circumstances is that there's an added level of whatever naughtiness, malevolence. I'm a bad person. I went along with it. I should have told my parents. I should have done something. Why didn't I call the police? Why didn't I stop it? And these ruminations can carry us into adulthood. And we need to understand that these belief systems, that occur to us, that I was helpless, I'm a pussy, I am sorry for that word. I didn't do anything. I don't have agency. I don't have boundaries. I don't have trust. I can't, rely on my intuition, because these are a cluster of beliefs that are connected, and they are carried into adulthood. And EMDR is great because it chops these up. And with that bilateral stimulation, we can begin to understand that, hey, wait a minute, these are things I believe to my core today, but there's not a lot of evidence when I'm sitting here with whatever, a university degree, with a decent job, keeping my life together. Yeah, my relationships are strained and that oftentimes don't work, but I have friends, I have intimate connections, am successful in my job, although there's strains there. Um, and I have renewed relationships with my family. I have good friends. I take care of myself more or less. And so it's like, wait a minute, what are these beliefs based upon the evidence that I see today, right? And that's where EMDR can really begin to untangle these beliefs that are really held in the body, right? And when we explore, like, where is this pain in my body, right? Headaches. That's where I need to control everything, because I had so little control in my home with this sexual behavior. I need to control everything on the outside world, right? In the gut is that tension and the anxiety. In the back is anger. In the heart, it's that sadness, right? And these taboos are get trapped in the body. And it's such a shame, because we should be talking about this a hell of a lot more. And I think that the EMDR is a terrific starting point for how to get across this, especially as people are considering, and I keep on saying this, I think EMDR is a phenomenal way to begin to do some anticipatory work for maybe stopping drinking or drug abuse. I think it's a perfect segue into figuring out how we're going to stop this, drinking or drugging, and especially as we either try to escape from our past or we have grief from our inability to have relationships. Those are the two things that we're right. It's the lost grief of lost innocence, and the grief of not being able to carry on intimate relationships as an adult. And so EMDR is a beautiful, beautiful way to look at what is the source of this grief, what emotions underlie this grief. And I think that I've had so much success, and I just want to let you know that in conclusion, we are designed to heal, and we want to get to the roots of these ancient, algaic, swampy morass of dying, ivy covered beliefs that just no longer serve us or were never true in the first place. So that's it for this week. I'm going to be taking off next week for the holidays, and so happy holiday, and let me know. Reach out to me if you need my audiobook. If you want to get a hold of me for a free consultation, please do. Happy day.